Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're listening. Welcome back to AI and the Future of Work. Thanks again for making this one of the most downloaded podcasts about the future of work. If you enjoy what we do, please like, comment, rate, and share in your favorite podcast app. And we'll keep sharing great conversations like the one we have today. I'm your host, Dan Turchin, advisor at Insight Finder, the system of intelligence for IT operations, and CEO of PeopleRain, the AI platform for IT and HR employee service. We haven't talked much about Web3 and the mechanics of decentralized communities or even blockchains on this show. 120 shows in, imagine that, huh? It's obvious that cryptocurrencies are disrupting the legacy financial system, and increasingly that smart contracts on blockchains are disintermediating power dynamics entrenched in almost every industry, not just financials, but healthcare, education, defense, and even manufacturing. Let's go on a thought experiment here. What if we could combine the world's data management for AI, which we usually talk about, with DAOs, or decentralized autonomous organizations, to gamify the collection of training data via actual multiplayer games? And let's say, what if a DAO existed to create and issue a token to reward players in online games with NFTs from a marketplace? Well, that bold vision launched recently in the form of a DAO called Synesis One. The CEO and founder of Synesis One is Paul Lee, and today we'll hear about his journey. Paul's a serial entrepreneur and also a trained biochemist and licensed medical doctor before founding Synesis One last year. Paul co-founded Mind AI, and before that, Curely, a care marketplace for consumers and doctors. Paul received his undergrad degree from Oxford and his MD from the Catholic University of Korea. Now he's out to demonstrate the power of Web3 to disrupt how data is collected to train large language models. I've really been looking forward to this one. Without further ado, Paul, welcome to AI and the Future of Work. Let's get started by maybe having you share a little bit more about your background and, gosh, how you got into this space.
Lovely. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for having me. Well, it's good to be on the show. A little bit about myself. I've been involved in the AI and the blockchain space since 2012. AI, we've actually started building it, doing the R&D since 2008. So literally before the formation or the incorporation of Mind AI, it's been almost 10 years in the R&D phase. And now we've commercialized a couple of, well, literally last year, at the end of last year. So it took 13 years to build and really get it right. And then obviously the sister company, Synesis One, was created because we saw that the bottleneck for AI companies such as Mind AI is gathering natural language data sets. But however, we call these ontologies. And gathering these ontologies have a lot of problems. I mean, we can't just do it like a mechanical Turk, because the quality of the data sets as well as the workers who create them aren't very good. So we wanted to incentivize, the community who will be building these data sets and reward them, but also allow the bias to be gone and include people from all kinds of races, all kinds of cultures, as well as all different languages around the world. So Synesis One was born. Now, Synesis One focuses on AI, as well as gaming, as well as NFT. So the ecosystem is very, very robust. And we're basically trying to gamify how people around the world can contribute to data so that we can monetize these data sets as well as securitize it.
I'll give us an example of a task that a player might do in a game that would contribute training data in the form of these ontologies.
Right. So, I mean, for example, well, in the beginning, we provide NFTs, which are words. Okay, so we've just produced 10,000 word NFTs, which we call cannons. Now, these words are obviously the unit of natural language. And what happens is you own an NFT, that word if it's being used by AI companies around the world for their usage, then you get rewarded. Such as, let's give you an example. So let's say I have a word want. Then if Mind AI, for example, is building conversational AI chatbots for e-commerce companies, then people, the end customers, will be asking for I want this, I want that. So the word want will be used very, very often. Every time that word want is used, that means the owner of that NFT would be rewarded. Now, on the gaming side, if you own this Canon NFT, we would be able to stake this and play games, play word puzzles. I mean, there are multiple games that we have on our list. The first one, Quantum Oasis, actually coming out next week. So it's the 31st of March when it's being launched. And it's a combination of word puzzles as well as phrase puzzles. And it's basically what we call code breaking. And those games will literally be the backbone of training these AI data sets, whether they are word utterances, whether they are sentence utterances. These are all going to contribute to making the AI data sets that is needed for natural language AIs out there.
So let's build on that example. So I own the NFT or the canon related to the word want. And let's say, like in your example, Mind AI licenses that canon from me as the owner of the NFT. How do you wrap like an ontology or like an ontological understanding of the concept of want around that term? I assume Mind AI must be purchasing a bunch of related concepts to want, not just the literal four-letter word.
Correct. So what happens is when we say sentence utterances, for example, let's give you a quick example. I want a slice of pizza, for example, right? And then what we're saying is the sentence utterance, how many different ways can you say, I want a slice of pizza? Some might say, I want a pie. Some might say, I want a pepperoni, or I want a Hawaiian, or I want, I don't know, I want... all kinds of different ways of saying I want pizza, right? Now, these are the sentence utterances that we would need to understand this sentence of I want pizza, right? So we're basically collecting the common sense knowledge, what we call the ontologies around I want pizza. What pizza is, what want means, how many different ways of, can you say pizza, whether it's a pie, whether it's I don't know, a Korean way of saying a pizza, all different ways. But these are all going to be collected through the gamification as well as the games such as Quantum Oasis.
So there might be...
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so there might be multiple owners of related concepts, related, like you said, wanting a pizza, etc. That could span multiple concepts.
No. So the NFT itself is owned by one person. Okay. So, for example, the word pizza may be owned by a person. Want may be owned by a person. So in the sentence, I want pizza, then if that phrase is being used multiple times by the AI companies, by the actual B2B companies that are using Mind AI, right? Let's say Domino's Pizza. Domino's Pizza is using a conversational AI made by Mind AI. Then the owner of the word want and pizza will be rewarded every time that sentence structure or sentence utterance is being used. So the NFTs are closely related to the ontologies. Ontologies can be words or it can be sentences as well.
Right.
So in order to understand this, you need to really dive deep into natural language semantics as well as, what ontologies are, right? So the words we collect, for example, are not just synonyms or antonyms. They go into hypernyms, hypernyms, holonyms, and all sorts. So these will be collected by our data yield farmers, which are collecting and validating these ontologies for use in different domains and different subjects.
That makes sense. So the tasks that would let me as a data yield farmer or a player of game take ownership of these NFTs span, like you said, hypernyms of that concept, which itself came from this list of 10,000 words that Synesis One seeded the game with. Is that a fair summary?
Close. So 10,000 words is not enough to fill the whole English language, for example, right? So we'll be releasing more canon NFTs that will be commonly used. So right now, we've chosen 10,000 most commonly used English words to release our first set of canons. We'll be releasing more canons as we go. So the usage of these words inside the ontologies for the businesses that are using these ontologies are crucial, because the owner of the NFTs will be rewarded, but also we want the data yield farmers who are actually contributing to these ontologies be rewarded heavily through gaming, as well as their work and their participation in the ecosystem as a whole.
So now let's talk about the gamification mechanics. So talk us through the connection between the canons, the NFTs, and then the token and the marketplace. So what can I then exchange these? As I understand it, I get tokens for data yield farming, and those can be exchanged in a marketplace for NFTs that might have value independent of the canons.
Okay, so
unpack that one for me.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of a mix up here. So the canons are basically NFTs, right? So you can buy the NFTs, and these NFTs will be going up in value, and also they're going to be providing you with passive income. That's the first thing. Also, once you have these NFTs, you'll be able to stake them to play games, or in order to maximize the rewards that you gain from these games, you can participate in data yield farming. So these are all governed by SNS tokens, which is the government's token in the Synesis One ecosystem. Okay, so you can earn and maximize these SNS tokens by contributing to the data yield farming by providing the ontologies, such as, how many different ways can you say, I want pizza? How many different ways can you say, I want to buy something, right? Or, like I said, it can also be word utterances. So once the data yield farmers go into the system of DYF, they'll see multiple topics and subjects that they can contribute to. These are provided by the architects, and then they are built by the builders, and they are validated by the validators. So there are 3 roles that you can play, and therefore there are different economic value for the work for the architects, for the builders, and the validators.
Excellent explanation. So I went and downloaded. I got a Phantom Ethereum wallet, and I investigated quantum gnosis, and it's beautiful. And just full credit to you and the team for designing a beautiful experience. I'm excited about the launch. You mentioned it's upcoming. When this gets published, it may have gone live already.
Exactly.
Talk us through the vision behind the game, and marry the vision behind the game and what players can expect from the game with the mechanics of the NFTs and the canons that you just described.
Sure. So in order to play the game, you either need to have the canon tokens, which is the NFT, or you need a certain amount of the SNS tokens. Now, Quantum Oasis is the first graphic novel NFT-based game, right? Which means you are, I'm sure you've seen a lot of graphic novels as well, but it's animated, very high quality puzzle games with integrated sci-fi story in them. Okay, so you will have around 3 puzzles to solve every single week. And every single time you solve a puzzle, you'll be rewarded. And you'll go through the stages. And after it, you'll be able to participate to maximize your reward through the gaming process in the data yield farming to produce and to add on to the ontologies from the community and then maximize the potential of your earnings. So we want people around the world to participate in building these data sets. Also, we want them to make a lot of money whilst doing it. So it has to be fun, it has to be rewarding, and it has to be economically viable. So the way we designed all our games, and Quantum Oasis is just the tip of the iceberg. We have at least 4 more games coming out this year. And these games are designed for the community as well as people around the world to get excited about, first of all, because it's fun, but also because they can earn rewards out of it. And they can maximize these rewards by providing the ontologies necessary for the AI companies such as Mind AI.
So we talk a lot on this show about the potential for bias to creep into data sets that are used to train AI models. And a concern I have about this approach is that the community that will respond well to a science fiction game and embedded around this beautifully designed graphic novel may not be representative of the overall population that you'd ideally want to define these ontologies. How do you mitigate the impact of potentially a population of contributors to the ontologies not representing the overall way the language is used beyond this population of gamers?
That's a very, very good point. And that's why we want to be able to cast the net to a diverse amount of people, as well as different cultures, different religions, different race. And that's where we are trying to diversify in the gaming itself, but through the architects who are designing the domains as well as the subjects. So the architect's role, as you know, is designing what kind of domains the builders are going to be building or providing the ontologies on. And these subject domains has to be very, very diverse. It's not just going to be focused on one domain. Also, the builders who are obviously coming from the gaming world as well, but they will also be coming for the data yield farming alone as well. So we try to generate the leads from the gaming as well, but also try to cast a different net so that people who are not gamers may also come in to contribute and earn rewards through the data yield farming ecosystem as well. So we need to try different things, but the bias is real, and we need to find ways to mitigate this bias as we go. I'm sure the AIs that were built for Microsofts and all the conglomerates, they were biased, and soon all the machine learning data sets were polluted. We're trying to make that, well, to be perfectly honest with you, it's going to take a lot of trial and error, but with the crowdsourcing mechanism, we believe that it will mitigate it for sure.
We had a guest on the show recently talking about building predictive healthcare models to be able to figure out when patients are going to need treatment, what treatment they need, how much should it cost. And they license their training data from states. And as we had a deeper conversation about where the states get their data, it's based on, what I'll maybe cynically refer to as, affluent patients who are able to afford surgeries. And then the data is collected based on who has received these surgeries and gives the state permission to share their data. So perhaps you could say, that the impact here could be less severe of biased data, but I'm glad it sounds like you appreciate the challenge, and you and our guests are, sorry, our audience are familiar with horrific examples like the Microsoft Taybot, where these things
Absolutely.
can be manipulated. And I'm glad you're thinking about the seriousness of that issue.
No, definitely. And that's exactly why we have a validator system, because we don't just believe in the fact that the build alone or the architects alone will be able to mitigate this situation. It's, it's a security system that we need to go through, from the architects who are designing what kind of data sets to collect in what domain. Also, the builders' mentality, as well as the education for the builders in building or collecting these ontology sets, but also the education needs to be done for the validators who are validating whether this data actually goes into the AI. That means these validators need to be of high, as you know, or high ethical ground or high moral ground, but also be experts in that domain specific subject, so that they are sure that this is the right information that needs to be fed in. So it's not just going to be one validation per the ontology. It's going to be multiple validations of the crowd, right? So I believe crowdsourcing is a much safer, much fairer, and much unbiased way of collecting these data, especially if you have a check process embedded in the ecosystem.
I buy the thesis. Absolutely. The crowdsourcing is a better way to mitigate the impact of bias. But I know, as, let's say, a potential purchaser of the data, these ontologies, I would have questions about how the data was collected. For example, if I'm selling jewelry versus pizza, I'd want to know if these are primarily males that don't wear jewelry or don't eat pizza. Whether or not I would trust the ontologies that were generated that way. What do you envision, providing your potential customers to be able to make them feel comfortable that the data is going to be of value?
That's a very good point. Now, as you say, the demographics can affect the ontologies as well. But the way we are collecting, or the ontologies we collect, are very, very different from the machine learning or deep learning data sets that we collect. So I'm sure you're going to be seeing a lot of, you can actually see it on our Telegram and Discord community channels already, of the samples of data yield farming questions that the architects have already done. We tested it out, and we already have, this was, literally a Google form test, but we got about 600 sentences from about, a group of 50. And we saw what kind of, because I'm very aware of exactly what you're saying about this bias. But what we are collecting are variations of the sentences rather than sentimental or emotional input from different demographics. Does that make sense? It's based on natural language alone, the variation of natural language, not whether it affects the sex or the age, or even the cultural differences, I would say.
That's a good explanation. Now I'm going to say something that's going to seem like heresy, but I got to get your perspective on this.
Sure.
Why was it essential to use a DAO and have these transactions on a blockchain and use NFTs? Did you consider, certainly, a lot of these mechanics could be done in what we'll call, quote, traditional ways. Why use the kind of the Web3 architecture?
That's a very good point. First of all, we wanted to make sure the data that we collect are decentralized. It cannot be owned by a company, it cannot be owned by any special person, and it has to be owned by the crowd. So we have separated the engine from the data set, so that the crowdsourced data sets are, and it belongs on the blockchain, so that it can be accessed by everyone or anyone. That's the first reason. Why did we use Solana? Well, because of the gas fees and the speed. Also, the current mechanical Turks out there, They are very labor intensive, they're not fun, and they don't pay well. We tried to change the status quo, and we felt that the NFTs, which we have condensed down into the unit of natural language, words, is very, very attractive if it also has passive income. Now, for the blockchain part or Web3, we believe it's an opportunity for all the other AI companies around the world to be able to, well, natural language AI companies around the world, to be able to access the data sets, the curated and tailored data sets that we are creating at Synesis One, so that they can have access freely, as open as possible, so that they can access it like electricity, rather than the data sets belonging to just a few conglomerates, the Facebooks or the Microsofts of the world.
Seems like today the Ethereum blockchain is almost synonymous with NFTs. And what you just described as your selection process with Solana, is it past the point of no return? Is there even, there's such a strong networking effect as each incremental project goes live on the Ethereum blockchain, it makes it that much harder for other blockchains. Is the race over? Is Ethereum won?
I don't think so at all. I think Solana is growing very quickly. I think the Solana ecosystem is growing very quickly. I think the NFT space on the Solana blockchain is increasing very, very quickly. And we want to ride the wave of the growth of Solana as well. And I personally think that the Ethereum, I mean, first of all, we can't run our ecosystem on Ethereum because of the gas fees or the speed of Ethereum. And it'll be economically not viable at all to provide our NFTs or even our solution on Ethereum. We needed that speed because, I mean, for AI, for conversational AI, we need that speed. And we had to pick a blockchain that was going to be growing exponentially, so that we could grow exponentially with that ride, with that wave. And I think we have chosen the right one. I do believe that Solana is going to become one of the leaders, such as Ethereum. So no, I don't think the competition is over.
As a technologist and a pioneer in this space, I want to get your perspective. What you're doing with gaming and with building these ontologies is so pragmatic. Anyone who's in conversational AI appreciates the beauty of this system and how you're gamifying it. And a lot of people don't appreciate how fundamental what you're doing is to getting closer to what we'll call general AI as opposed to narrow AI. But it could be approaches like what you're doing that get us there a lot faster. What's your perspective on general AI? Will we ever get there? Is it kind of a hollow promise, or are projects like Synesis One going to get us there quicker than most people think?
Well, I think it's the engine problem as well as the data set problem. Engine meaning machine learning has already hit its ceiling. The narrow AIs of the world, they can do, phenomenal things in a very narrow space with supercomputing power and, a lot of tons of training required. But at the core, that's why Mind AI was born. I mean, we believe that in order to build what we call artificial general intelligence, it needs to be intelligent, right? And at the core of intelligence is what we call reasoning. And reasoning process consists of abduction, deduction, and induction. These three things must work in concert. Otherwise, we can't mimic the human reasoning process. And what we've done at Mind AI is put those three reasoning processes into an algorithm that we call the canonical structure. And that is what we call the unit of reasoning. So we have a very good chance because we're not following any of the machine learning or deep learning protocols. We have actually spent 13 years building this natural language reasoning algorithm, and we have commercialized it. The thing that we need now is domain-specific knowledge, and that's what we're trying to solve with Synesis One. Now, building the common sense knowledge or the domain-specific knowledge, what we call the ontologies, is crucial in understanding the space, the different domains. I mean, think about educating a child in different subjects. You need to provide them with, different subject common sense knowledge, as well as more specific knowledge as they learn more. That's exactly what we're trying to do with the collection of these ontologies by domain after domain. Now, let's imagine after these domains have been set in, let's say, 2,000 domains. So let's say we have about, 5 million ontologies already built in Synesis One, and Mind AI has access to it. First of all, Mind AI needs 500 times less data than any machine learning or deep learning technologies out there. So with that 5 million ontologies, it will be able to, in my opinion, cross different domains and be able to think and reason naturally. That, I believe, will lead to a very preliminary artificial general intelligence in the beginning. But then, as it becomes more aware and gathers more ontologies to support its original common sense knowledge, then it will be able to link different parts of these ontologies and theses and come up with its own meta thesis or meta theoretics. And I think that will be the path to artificial general intelligence.
Paul, that's the single most articulate and pragmatic approach to achieving general AI that I've heard. And we're all rooting for you. It's just a very elegant way of thinking about structured reasoning and a path to getting there that is beyond science fiction.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan.
Good. Well, Paul, this has been so much fun, but I got to get you off the hot seat. But you got to answer one last question for me. So you're talking to a bunch of AI savvy practitioners who are interested in making money off these blockchain projects and wicked smart and might be interested in investing some time in some of the games and contributing to the ecosystem. But there are a lot of competing projects competing for their time and attention. What's your pitch to gamers or potential participants in the Synesis One community?
Well, I mean, first of all, the way I want people to understand this is that we're building AI datasets that are going to be powering natural language AIs around the world. And if you want to participate and contribute, please come along, because it's not just going to be a fun playing games and gamified games, but also you'll be earning rewards that you deserve by providing these ontologies. So why not participate? If you see AIs to be, the future technology, then I think you must contribute and also get rewarded for participation. And I think, the future is in blockchain as well as AI. And we've married the two in a very sexy, elegant way. And I want everyone to be able to try this. And I want everyone to be rewarded and make the word travel faster. So, yeah, I mean, what have you got to lose is my pitch.
Oh, I'm sold. You got me. I can accelerate the development of general AI. I can contribute in a meaningful way to the future of humanity. How's that?
Absolutely.
All right. I'm signing up to sell for you. How about that?
Oh, thank you. That would be awesome.
Good stuff. Well, Paul, I would love to have you back for another version of this conversation after Quantum Noesis launches and subsequent games launch. This is a fascinating space to watch.
Absolutely. I'll be more than happy to come back. Thank you, Dan.
Well, such a pleasure. Best of luck to you and the team. Gosh, that's a wrap for this week, but great discussion with Paul Lee, CEO of Synesis One. I'm your host, Dan Turchin of AI and the Future of Work. But of course, we're back next week with another fascinating guest.